France crowned Six Nations champions. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Six Nations for another year, done and dusted. It was a great tournament as ever. You know, if you're a fan, maybe it didn't go the way we wanted it to go, but as a rugby fan, I think it was still very enjoyable, and it's hard to argue that, you know, the most deserving team didn't claim the title. I think, you know, there might be a little bit of delusion there for anyone who thinks otherwise. So what we're going to do in this is we're going to go through first of all, the results, then we talk a little bit about each of the games. I'm not going to talk as much as I normally do about the games in reviews, because, you know, there's a full review of each of the games if you want, you know, to listen to me talking about those. We'll then look at the table, and then we'll talk about, you know, each of the teams' tournaments as well, and how, you know, I think things kind of went for them. So let's start off with the results, as I said. So first of all, Italy 17, Ireland 22, Wales 14, England 68, and France 35, Scotland 16. Right, so let's start with the Italy-Ireland game. So, you know, another poor performance from Ireland in this one, and, you know, only for some poor handling and discipline from Italy. I think, you know, Italy could have won that game, and, you know, it wasn't like Ireland were leaving lots of scores out there either. You know, they really were struggling. And I said it before the game as well, that I thought it was a bad idea. Like, even before Ireland selected their team, I pretty much predicted the team they were going to select, that it would be the strongest available. And on one side, you kind of, like, on one hand, you look and you think, yeah, that's you know, well, it's Italy. You have to take them seriously. You have to give them respect. Fair enough. But after such a really poor performance against France, you would still think that, you know, they would mix things up a little bit and bring in, you know, actually bring in some players from the wider squad, rather than kind of bring in players who were returning from injury, etc. So, but in this one, you know, it's Italy get off to the good start. Monty Ioane gets over, you know, around about the 10-minute mark for them. Then Ireland hit back through Hugo Keenan. Tommaso Allen then slots a penalty to put Italy back in front. And then just before half-time, Dan Sheehan gets over for his first try of the game. Just after half-time then, he's over again. And then, you know, coming up to the 60-minute mark, he gets over to complete his hat-trick. And then Stephen Varney then, a few minutes later, he's over for Italy and sets up a tense finish to the game. But, you know, Italy can't find that score to win it, and Ireland can't find a score to make things a little more comfortable for them either. And I think, you know, it speaks a lot to how well Italy played in the game, that even though Ireland knew that there was a possibility that, you know, the whole tournament would be decided on points difference, that when they had a penalty just outside their own 22 with a clock in the red, they decided to tap it and kick it out. You know, that is a mark of how well Italy played and how poorly Ireland played in the game. You know, so Italy, I think they certainly finished with this performance on a bit of a high compared to, you know, their performance against France. Ireland not so much. You know, Ireland, a lot more questions than answers, really, you know, as the tournament went on for them. But we'll talk about that more a little bit later. So on to the next game then, and it was Wales 14, England 68. So in this one, England off to a brilliant start. It told you over after 2 minutes. Then Roebuck really strong in scoring his try. You know, he got tackled 3 or 4 meters from the line and still managed to, you know, power his way over to score. Then we had after that, yeah, it was Ben Thomas gets over for the first 2 tries from him for Wales, and then after that, then it's just all England. You know, Freeman gets over before half time. We think, like, you know, we're kind of going into half time, and Wales, they're behind, but they're not too far behind. But then Chandler Cunningham-South gets over, and then you're thinking, okay, well, England bonus point before half time, but Wales, if they can get a score, in the minute or two before the break, maybe things look a little different after. Nope. Will Stewart gets over for another try for England. 5 tries for England in the first half. Then into the second half, then Alex Mitchell gets over for England. Henry Pollock on for his debut. He gets over for the first 2 tries from him. And then after that, then Joe Hayes gets over as well. 10 minutes to go for, try number 8 for England, I think. And then Ben Thomas gets over for a consolation score from Wales. And you're thinking, okay, well, at that stage, England had, 50 odd points or something, and you're thinking it's a really bad scoreline for Wales at that stage. I think England had already surpassed their record point score against Wales and Cardiff, but they weren't done. So Pollock gets over for his second with 2 minutes to go, and then with the clock in the red, then Cunningham-South gets over for his second, and England's 10th try of the game for the final score of Wales 14, England 68. And yeah, England, did really well. They're, I talked about it before, got better as the tournament went on, and this really was, in terms of performance, the peak for them. Wales, not a great performance from them. There were a few flashes and stuff there, but just very obviously, defense and physicality, 2 things that absolutely have to be worked on from their point of view. But yeah, final score, Wales 14, England 68. And then on to the final game of the tournament, and it was France 35, Scotland 16. So, any kind of nerves that France might have had, for this game, like Tom Ramos pops over a penalty after 3 minutes to get them on the board. Then Mo Fana over to score after 17 minutes. Then who is it? Russell scores a penalty. Then Scotland with a bit of a kind of revival. 10 minutes to break. Darcy Graham over for their 1 try of the game. Russell converts that, and suddenly we're back at 13 points each. But then France didn't look back after that. It was I missed a couple of penalties as well, sorry. So Ramos got a penalty before Darcy Graham try, and Russell got a penalty after it. And at that stage, then we were 13 points each. So just coming up to half time, and you're probably thinking that Scotland, they're in this one, and there's a decent chance, if they can kind of produce something at the start of the second half. Then a couple of minutes to go, Ramos pops over another penalty, and France actually go in leading at the break. Then into the second half, that man Louis Bielbiari becomes the record try scorer in the Six Nations in the Six Nations era of this tournament. So with 8 tries, there have been players who got 8 tries in previous versions of it, like 4 Nations or whatever, and 5 Nations. But yeah, 8 tries for him. So beating Jacob Stockdale's record of 7 tries in one tournament. And that guy is just absolutely fantastic. And also became just the 3rd person to score in every round of the Six Nations, in a single year. And it was actually Freeman in the England game against Wales. He became the 2nd player to do that. So to have 2 of them in 1 year is just crazy. When there'd only been 1 player previously who'd done it in the 25 years of the Six Nations. So that is a little bit crazy, isn't it? But then France from there kind of in control. Tom Ramos over to score with 25 minutes to go. Then 20 minutes to go, Mo Fana gets over for them. And, from the point of view of Scotland, not really much else. Like I think the only score they got in the second half was a penalty from Russell with about 30 minutes of the game to go. So at that stage, they felt like they were kind of, within touching distance at least of France. But then that Ramos and then the second Mo Fana try just, took it out of their hands in terms of the final result. But France looked pretty comfortable in the game once they kind of got themselves back ahead, and especially in the second half, and the crowd were fantastic, atmosphere electric. It's a fantastic atmosphere to witness. Fortunately for me, I witnessed it in 2007 when France handily beat Ireland in the World Cup in the pool stages, where we lost to France and Argentina in the pools. It wasn't a good World Cup for us at all. Still electric atmosphere in the stadium though, and it's hard to enjoy at the time because obviously your team are losing and losing badly. But kind of when I look back on it, it was an amazing place to be at the time, and I'm sure it was the same on Saturday night as well for anyone who was there, especially if you were French. But final score in this: France 35, Scotland 16. So let's have a look at the table, and then we'll talk about each of the teams, kind of Six Nations, and how they progress through it. So France there, top of the pile, 4 wins out of 5, and points difference at plus 125 and 21 match points. So they got 5 bonus points across their 5 games, and that consistency really did help them in terms of claiming the title, because one less bonus point, they still would have won the title because of their points difference. Although England at least gave it a go trying to close it down. But if they got 2 less bonus points, maybe it would have been England's title. But I think France absolutely deserved winners of the tournament. You look over the 5 games that they played, and you have to. It's hard to argue that they weren't the best team in each of those games. Now they did lose against England, but they did leave a lot of points out there. And I'm not saying England didn't deserve to win that game. I'm just saying that maybe France had a better performance, but performance also includes finishing your chances, and they didn't do that. So, but still, 4 wins out of 5. Really good return for them, and it's again over the whole tournament, absolutely deserved champions. Next, then England, and I think looking at this as well, England definitely the second best team in the tournament. They got better as things went on. 4 wins out of 5 for them as well. They got up to a plus 74 points difference and 20 match points to be there in second place. And only lost that one game, the opening game against Ireland, and that comeback in that game as well really helped them in terms of their finishing position. Ireland then in third place. It would have been, although I'm an Ireland fan, I would have been delighted if we'd won the title. It still would have felt wrong for us to win it after that France performance. I don't think a team that puts in a performance like that, given that we haven't been stellar throughout the rest of the tournament, would have been deserved winners of the tournament. So I think third place is fair for Ireland. 4 wins out of 5 again, but only a plus 18 points difference for them, and 19 points overall. Next then, Scotland in 4th place, 2 wins out of 5. Feels like they're kind of regressing this year, along with Ireland, and points difference for them was minus 16 and 11 points. And again, it's hard to argue that they weren't the 4th best team in the tournament. They're definitely better than Italy and Wales, and definitely not as good as France, England, or Ireland. Next then, in 5th place, Italy, 1 win out of 5 and a minus 82 points difference. Really blown out by that, heavy defeat against France. Absolute, shellacking that they got. 5 match points for them in 5th place. And again, it's where they deserve to be. You look at the, against Wales, they look comfortable in that game. They gave Scotland a bit of a scare coming back, but then Scotland pulled away. Against Ireland, they could have won that, honestly, but they still would have been in 5th place anyway. And then against France and England, they look comfortably the second best side on the pitch of both of those. Then 6th place Wales, no wins out of 5, minus 119 points difference and 3 match points. And again, deserved wooden spoon for them, especially given how they started the tournament with Gatland there. Some brighter signs later on in the tournament, but wasn't enough for them to avoid a second wooden spoon on the bounce. So that is your finishing order. Champions France, 2nd England, 3rd Ireland, 4th Scotland, 5th Italy, and 6th Wales. And again, it doesn't feel like any of those teams are in the wrong position or were hard done by through the tournament. So let's have a look at how the teams went through the tournament. We're actually going to start from the bottom. So we start with Wales. So they opened up, let me find it here. So they opened up against France, losing 43 points to 0. And, it was very clear at that stage, that, even though they had that record, or like they were going, like heading towards that record, losing streak coming into the tournament, I think this particular result and the manner of this result as well, kind of made it very clear that, Gatland was basically in last chance saloon at that stage. Then Italy 22, Wales 15, and although the scoreline looks close, again, Wales looked very comfortable in that game. The same scoreline actually that Ireland beat Italy by, but very different games altogether. Like, again, Italy just looked very comfortable. It's kind of similar to, kind of an older kid who just keeps a smaller kid away at arm's length. That's the way that kind of looked in terms of, you weren't really worried about Italy losing that game, or Wales coming back and beating them. So, and that was like, at that stage, everybody kind of felt like, okay, probably, wooden spoon is decided now. Wales are going to get the wooden spoon. And then people are looking at the other games that had to come, especially with Ireland looming, after the break week. And that's when Warren Gatland left. And it was good that he stepped away. And, I think people saw in the next one, Wales 18, Ireland 27, a lot of kind of positivity coming back, a lot of kind of chinks of light as well, at the end of the tunnel for Wales. And it is a tunnel that they have to travel down. Again, I talked about it before, they're not going to just turn things around overnight, but certainly Matt Charr coming in, he had like a, he had like a week with them, right? Because he went with Cardiff over, or came with Cardiff over to Connacht here in Ireland for a game there, and then he went to the Wales squad, and then he didn't get involved in Cardiff's trip to Leinster then after that, like in the other follow week. But yeah, a lot of positives out of that result. Then next one, then Scotland 35, Wales 29. So first half for Wales not so good. 28-8 at the break, and then second half they won that comprehensively. And again, more kind of signs of, especially in attack, some better times to come for them. And you can see as well, in those two games compared to the first two games, Wales standing like massively deep on attack. the ball out of the ruck was quick, but actually moving the ball, from pod to pod or player to player, not so quick, and they very often getting caught way behind the gain line and finding it very hard. No real physical carries or anything like that. But in these two games, Ireland and Scotland, you see that there was some difference coming in, and then finally, Wales 14, England 68. And it was just a reminder, really, like England fantastic, Wales, not so good. But I think a reminder that, there's no quick fix for something like this. There is potential there, but at the moment it's only potential, and it's going to take, a lot of work to do it through the summer tour and then into November and then in next year's Six Nations as well. So, it's a long road back, but at least they're on that road now, and you can see them, getting that win during the summer to break that losing streak, and then we'll have to see how they go from there. So that was Wales in sixth place. Next, then Italy. So Italy, they started off with that, 31 points to 19 defeat to Scotland. Scotland race out into a lead. Italy come back and they made it 19 all in the second half. But then early in the second half, and then Scotland pulled away towards the end. Italy kind of ran out of gas on that one, but good signs from them. And then we talked about it, just a minute ago. Italy 22, Wales 15. Italy looking far more comfortable of the two sides there, and there definitely was, a bit of a gap between them in terms of, composure and ability as well in that game. And the scoreline doesn't really do Italy too much justice. Then after that, the absolute disaster that was Italy 24, France 73. Like first half, just up to about 30 odd minutes, Italy looking good, scoring a couple of tries, looking like a bit of a ding-dong battle, but then France pulled it out to 35-70 in a half time, and then just ran away with in the second half, scoring 11 tries. And it was a throwback to Italy in the 2023 World Cup, where they did the same against France and against New Zealand, where they got a bit behind and heads went down, defending went out the window, and it was just easy scores for the opposition. And that's the way it was in that game. And then some changes were made from that. Casada decided he dropped Lamero after that, and then Italy went off to Twickenham, competitive in the first half, 21-17 at half time. But then again, England turned it on in the second half and he's away 47 points to 24. And so then 3 more changes for the final game against Ireland. Half time, Italy 10, Ireland 12, but Italy could have been leading there at half time. They were leading at one point, but Ireland came back over the top of them. Then the second half, Ireland got that lead, 22 points to 17, and Italy couldn't find that score really to get themselves a draw or a weight conversion to actually win the game. But much improved performance from them, in that game as well. It was the apart from the Wales game, against kind of the better teams, it was certainly the best performance of the tournament. Ireland weren't great shakes in that game, but you still have to give credit to Italy for their performance as well. So, still some positives there for them, but you feel like, that mental side of it, from the France game, something has to be done about that, because it happens to them too often. They've always got, a capitulation in them, over kind of a stretch of 4 or 5 games. And when you're thinking about trying to get out of World Cup pool, you really can't have that in your game. So definitely going to have to work on that and improve that. Okay, next then we will talk about Scotland. So Scotland started with 31 points to 19 win against Italy. As I said, Italy coming back and them giving a bit of a scare, but Scotland had the wherewithal to go again. And then next game for them was Scotland 18, Ireland 32. So in this one, Scotland Ireland just kind of pulled away from them. They then get a try before half time, but never really showed up in the game. And I can't remember the last time Scotland actually performed against Ireland. I don't know what it is. There's some kind of hoodoo on them or something, but they never really produced a performance against Ireland, and they didn't in this one either. Scotland 18, Ireland 32. Then on to the Calcutta Cup. They created chances. They couldn't take them, couldn't finish them. They scored 3 tries, couldn't convert any of them either. One conversion, possibly could have won the game. Okay. Again, for me, it's not a case of, oh, well, if Finn Russell had have converted one of those tries, then we absolutely, definitely would have won. Right? Maybe they won right at the end, because there wouldn't have been much happening after that. But you certainly can't say it for the earlier ones, because if, instead of it being 16-15 to England, with a minute to go or a couple of minutes to go, it was England 16, Scotland 17, completely changed the dynamic of the game, right? And England would have been pushing to score again rather than trying to hang on to their lead. So, and Scotland were actually winning that game at halftime as well, 10-7. So didn't finish off the opportunities that they created for themselves in that one, and for me, deservedly lost the game as well. Then next, Scotland 35, Wales 29. So brilliant performance in the first half from Scotland. Scoring 4 tries, looking very comfortable in the game. Then second half, they fell away, and Wales really came back at them. And if the game had gone a little bit longer, maybe Wales could have actually broken that losing streak. So, and again, another thing Scotland have to work on is, you look at teams like France, especially, where the foot is on the throat, it never comes off. They never give a sucker, an even break. But Scotland do. Scotland get, it comfortably ahead. They're not wanting, not enough players in the team. Or, once you get 35 points, you have to have players in the team that want to score again to get 40 and then score again and again, get up to 50 and score again. And we saw that England versus Wales. That's what England did. Scotland at the moment don't have that. And you need that if you're really gonna win tournaments and stuff like that. You have to have that kind of ruthless streak, and they're missing that at the minute. Next then, for them was France 35, Scotland 16, the final game. So competitive in the first half, but again fell away in the second half, and definitely something that they work on is those second halves, getting good starts to games, but not being able to carry you through into the second half. And part of that, you have to look then at impact from the bench. The bench aren't giving them enough to kind of help them go again in games. And if they did, they might have, I don't think they would have beaten France or Ireland, but they might have beaten England at least. So that's Scotland. And then next then, if we look at Ireland, who finished third. So Ireland start off, against England. Not a great first half from them, losing 10-5 at half time. Then they have a purple patch in the second half where, they basically got the game won, with about 15-20 minutes to go. And then they do something stupid, and they basically, you could see the intensity drops, and England get a couple of late scores that ultimately brought them back into the hunt for the title. Ireland really should have seen that out and not let England get that losing bonus point. Next then, as I said, very comfortable against Scotland. Scotland 18, Ireland 32. I think Ireland definitely in transition at the moment, and one thing that we're going to see, I think, at some stage, it has to happen at some stage, right, is where Ireland don't have these comfortable victories against Scotland, and that's when we know we're in real dire trouble. But another comfortable victory for Ireland against Scotland for whatever reason. Then not so comfortable against Wales, losing at halftime 13-10. Turned it around in the second half, but alarm bells starting to ring already. Shades of the November performances, coming through in that one, and people maybe not as confident going in to the France game, and they were right not to be confident. Ireland 27, France 42. So Ireland losing 8-6 at half time. They get the nose in front, with a try just after half time, but concede a try pretty much from the kickoff for France to go ahead, and then France didn't look back after that. Ireland get a couple of late scores to put a bit of gloss on the scoreline, but they were absolutely destroyed, honestly, by France in that game. And then those alarm bells, sounding, 24/7 at that stage. Everybody, it was clear to everyone that there's something majorly wrong with the Ireland team. And then the final game of the tournament for them, Italy, 17, Ireland 22, just about snuck in at halftime, leading, and just about snuck in at the end, leading as well. Not a brilliant performance for them. They didn't use, a lot of players in the squad, didn't see any kind of match time either, and it kind of, it speaks to kind of that. How can I put it? Like there's almost two Irelands, right? Because we have the Ireland where everybody's talking about, oh, they've got fantastic systems and are helping to develop all this depth, etc. But then we get into the tournament, and the so-called depth is sitting in the stands for most of the tournament. So what's the point of it? Like, it feels like Ireland have maybe 27 players, like, and 3 of them just retired, who are considered to be in that rotation for the match day 23 in terms of like the top picks and wherever, and not much beyond that. It's very hard for other players to get in beyond that kind of number. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And we'll talk about that again in a second, because we are going to have another little summary for each of the teams at the end. So next then, England, who finished second. So Ireland 27, England 22 to start. Winning at half time, let us slip in the second half. Ireland, just a bit too physical for them. But then, come back at the end there, gave themselves a little bit of confidence, getting that losing bonus point. Then they move on to the France game. 7-0 at half time. They should have been dead and buried. In the second half, then they took their chances and it just about edged the game. And again, France didn't take their chances, so England deserved winners there. And you can see the confidence building. Like, England, the one team I think who game on game, you can see that them improving all through the tournament. Then England 16, Scotland 15, losing 10-7 at half time. Into the second half then, and they just about keep their noses in front of Scotland. Scotland scored a try towards the end but can't convert. And, yes, Scotland created chances, but not as many as France, and they didn't take those chances either. And part of that is to do with, Scotland not having the killer instinct, but also England's defence as well. I thought England's defence very good this year, putting a lot of pressure on opposition and creating the kind of creating the circumstances for those errors to happen, if you like. Next then, it was the final game. England, not the final game. 2 games out. England 47, Italy 24. So competitive first half, England winning 21-17 at half time. Second half, though, England cut loose a little bit. Some great handling, especially from the forwards. Like for that slight home try in the corner, you got basketball pass from Itoje, another, two more slick offloads from forwards. Then Jamie George with a little kind of offload in behind the defender, slight home then with the spin and the score in the corner. And, it kind of showed the type of rugby that England fans have been crying out for. And it was definitely a positive step from them. And then their best performance of the tournament, Wales 14, England 68. So, pretty much all the way through the game, England just looked so good. On attack, looking slick, players looking to get involved. Everyone kind of, it's one of those ones where, everyone's playing kind of with a smile on their face. Everyone wants the ball. Everyone wants to get involved in things, and that's really what you want. And also, not just that, but on the defensive side of things as well. They were determined not to let Wales kind of, score a bunch of tries towards the end to kind of close the score up. England wanted to keep going away, and they did that in the last, 2 tries in the last kind of 2 minutes of the game as well from them. So definitely the best performance from them right at the end. And again, I think the one team that improved all the way through the tournament. And, good signs for them, good signs also from Borthwick, because he was under big pressure through the tournament as well. Then, champions France, let's talk about how they went. So really good performance starting out 43-0 against Wales. Just very clinical in that one, never gave Wales any kind of chance in that. Then, gave England lots of chances in that 26-25 defeat. Yes, poor conditions in the first half, but still the handling was just atrocious from them. Players of that quality, you don't expect them to be dropping balls with the try line at their mercy on several occasions as well through them. So again, deservedly lost that. And ultimately cost them a Grand Slam, but I don't think they deserved a Grand Slam based on their lack of finishing ability in that game. Then kind of really responded against Italy, right? 70, Italy 24, France 73, 11 tries, winning 35-17 at half time, and then just really kicked on in that second half as well. And really showed that they were absolutely up for it going into that Ireland game. And then in the Ireland game, then, narrowly winning 8-6 at half time. But then by the time it was done, Ireland 27, France 42. And again, 27 kind of flatters Ireland because they got a couple of late scores. France, absolutely dominant in the game. So physical, 7-1 split, that they had as well against Italy. Just helped them just keep that going all the way through the game as well. And then finally finished off France 35, Scotland 16. So halftime 16-13, kind of things in the balance in terms of winning the title, because they knew, if they lost, England's result would mean that England would be champions. But then they stepped up in that second half and just pulled away, and deserved champions in the end, because, they produced some of the best rugby all through the tournament, scored 30 tries in the tournament as well. Yes, 11 of them against Italy, but that's still 19 more in the other 4 games that they played. So fantastic, brilliant to see them through the tournament. Pity, that Dupont got injured, and also a pity about the whole fracas about that afterwards as well. The accusations that were flying around and stuff like that for what was, a rugby incident. But wish him, speedy recovery, and also any other players that get injured through the tournament. So let's have a last kind of chat, very quick 1 line or 2 lines from each team. So France, champions, I was going to say Grand Slam, champions, deserved champions, have said many times. And they faced some adversity in the tournament. That loss against England really would have knocked their confidence, but you wouldn't be able to tell from like after that. The performances were just brilliant and really responded well to that. So that's good, because sometimes with France, with adversity like that, the head can go, and it could have cost them the whole tournament. If they hadn't, say, like if they kind of just about scraped by Italy the way Ireland did, and then not performed in Dublin, that was certainly on the cards, but absolutely not the way that they did it. So brilliant from them. They're going to New Zealand now in the summer, but top 14 or wherever, all the top players are going to be involved in those end of seasons. So I'm not sure what type of team is going to go over there. And you would think, on paper, Six Nations champions versus a New Zealand team that have kind of under Razor have kind of had a little bit of a renaissance as well. That it might be a good series to watch, but I'm not sure how strong the French team going down there is going to be, and it might not be as good as we want it to be. Next, then England. As I said, Borthwick under a lot of pressure through the tournament. And I think himself and his coaches answered a lot of the critics, but it still feels like, given the way things were at this earlier on in the tournament, with people saying we don't like the box kicking, etc. And the funny thing is, people didn't mind the box kicking against Wales when they scored 10 tries, right? There was plenty of box kicking in that as well. And actually, let me pull it up, because it wasn't actually available at the time. But I'm sure the stats are available now for those. So let me pull those up. But yeah, people complaining about the kicking, the box kicking, especially. But yeah, look at this. So England kicked 33 times in that game, and of those, 22 were short tactical kicks. So those are grubbers, chips over, and box kicks, and the vast majority of those were box kicks. But because it led to something good, England going forward, retaining the ball or causing errors from Wales and giving good field position, nobody minded it, right? And that's the way it is, right? You only notice things like box kicks when things are going badly for you, and people say, stop kicking the ball away. But it's the same tactics they used in this game that they did, in the game against Ireland as well. But yeah, with that, what I'm basically saying is that Borthwick, because of the way things were earlier, they're only like a couple of poor performances away from it going back to that again. It doesn't feel like it feels now that he's answered his critics, right? But those critics, they're just waiting for another chance. That's what it feels like at this stage. So unless he delivers a title next year, because that's would be the progression for England now, right? Is to go on and win the title next year. Then he's gonna have people second guessing him all the way to the next World Cup. Then next, Ireland in third place there. So Simon needs to be the interim coach there while Andy Farrell's away with the Lions, linked with the Wales job. Given his wife is Welsh and he lives in Wales, but committed himself to Ireland. But now we're here, and maybe not commit himself that much to Ireland, because there are a lot of rumours about the fact that he's going to be picked. I think it's the 26th of March. They're announcing the Lions coaches, and he's been a hot tip to be one of those coaches. So that's going to leave Ireland in an interesting situation. So potentially the head coach and his supposed temporary replacement away with the Lions. So then who's going to step up? Is it going to be Paul O'Connell, or who's stepping up after that, right? We'll have to see. But, with that, it means, a crucial time for Ireland, honestly, where we've seen, we have players retiring, but also we've seen the need to bring more fresh blood into the team, get a better dynamic in the team, get younger players experience so that they can be ready for next year's Six Nations, because this, like, other than the players that retired, this same squad goes in the state that it is now into next year's Six Nations. They're finishing 4th or 5th in the tournament. They're not even, forget about them like challenging for the title. They're on a downward trend, and something needs to be done. So when you've got your head coach away with the Lions, right, and his assistant rumored at least to be away with the Lions as well, that's not good. That's not going to be good for Irish rugby. This summer tour is crucial for Ireland in terms of getting that development, because they've put it off. They delayed it so much compared to other teams have been bringing players in, a lot more players. Like Ireland brought some players in, after the World Cup, but not as many as other teams. So they delayed that to kind of kick the can down the road, kick it down the road. And now, they can't do it anymore. They've got to get it done, and get it done now. But who's actually going to take the reins? Who's going to make those tough decisions as well? So, interesting and very crucial times ahead for Ireland, I think, in their summer tour. It's Georgia and Portugal, I think, but the details of it haven't come out yet fully. Next then, Scotland. So talked about it lots of times through this year, and I think it still stands that Gregor Townsend, I feel, has taken this team as far as he can. I think he's done a fantastic job in terms of taking them from basically wooden spoon contenders every year to a team that could mix it with the top teams, that had that run against England for the Calcutta Cup, etc. But they never finished in the top 2 of the tournament. Never really properly in contention for the title. I think maybe one final day where there was a chance for them. Like, obviously this final day there was a chance, but it was one of these miracles of miracles, right, for them to win the tournament. But yeah, like it feels like a change is needed, and I've said it before, Franco Smith seems to be the guy for it. He's done a fantastic job at Glasgow. He's got previous test experience with Italy as well. For Glasgow as well, he turned them from a very talented group who couldn't deliver on the big occasion to title winners of the URC. And they've gotten to European final as well, with him at the helm too. So really has done a job. Plays attractive rugby as well. And Glasgow generally, over the last few years, finishing in the top, 2 or 3 of the URC table as well. So consistently good, not just getting into knockout stages and then going on a bit of a run. That's not what happened for them. They earned their spot in there with fantastic performance throughout the season, and then they stepped it up in the knockout stages, and especially in the final to win that. And that's something I think that Scotland need. Now, the downside of that is, Franco Smith is doing, as I said, doing a fantastic job at Glasgow. Can you get somebody into Glasgow then to make sure that they don't start falling off, and then you have less confident players anyway coming into the national setup? But for me, I definitely get him in there for Scotland at this stage. I think it's the right time as well. Give him basically two seasons until the World Cup, and I think that would be kind of the right time to do it. There's no point in waiting until after next year's Six Nations if they're going to make a change. I think at this stage they've got to either stick or twist, right? They've got to either decide Townsend is the guy for the next World Cup, and no matter how bad things get, we can't change our minds or make the decision now and decide, okay, listen, Gregor, you've done a fantastic job, but we feel it's time to go in a different direction. And I think that's what Scotland need to do at this stage. Then Italy, 5th place. So, mixed tournament for them, avoiding the wooden spoon again for second year. Very good. But then that game against France, that's got to leave a scar on you. And that's going to be hard for them. I don't think they need to change coach. But I do feel like they need to get somebody in like sports psychologist or whatever, right? In there to help them with whatever's going on with them mentally, because it's happening too often where basic complete capitulations and massive scores getting run up against them. You can't go from being fairly competitive, against teams like Scotland and Ireland, and not being too bad against England, but then being absolutely atrocious against France. France definitely the best team in the tournament, but there's not that much of a gap between France and England and Ireland. Overall, obviously, there was a big gap between France and Ireland in their head-to-head game, but I think overall, so Italy definitely needs to sort it out, and they need to get somebody in there. And it's a pity as well, because you look at the club teams, right? I know a lot of players are playing in the top 14, but I think part of that's obviously part of why Italy are getting better, but also part of it is that the domestic teams in the URC have been performing well too. We've seen Benetton in recent years get into playoffs. They won the Rainbow Cup a few years ago as well during COVID. And then Zebre, on a 3-game winning streak in the URC, a team that you were lucky to win 1 game a season, suddenly producing that kind of form, and it shows that Italian rugby is on the up. But they've got to fix stuff like that. They've got to be more consistent, and if they become more consistent, then they're going to get closer to teams like Scotland and Ireland and England, and then maybe at the moment I think France, again, there's a bit of a gap between them and the rest. But Italy drew against them last year, so it can change very quickly over the course of a year. But yeah, Italy definitely need something in there to help them with the mental side of the game. Then finally, Wales lost all of the games, come up with the wooden spoon. They're on the record streak now, whatever it is, 17 defeats in a row. Matt Chard in there temporarily. We'll see whether he takes over for the summer tour to Japan or not, but they have to get somebody in on a permanent basis to really come in and try and develop, because you can see that there is potential there in that team. But I think they've got to first of all get a decent head coach in, but then the other coaches as well. For me, other than Adam Jones, of the other coaches that are there at the minute, especially the ones that are still there from Gatlin's time, they'd be out and bring in new coaches. It feels like it's got to be a new broom, just completely sweep everything out and bring new guys in there and just have a completely new environment there and no hangovers from the Gatland era. But the main thing for Welsh rugby is the WRU needs to sort themselves out. They're an absolute shambles. They're an embarrassment to their nation and to their game in Wales as well. They've been some of the things they've done, especially in the men's game and the women's game over recent years, it's been absolutely terrible. And there's no, it feels like the regions have no support from the WRU. At the same time as well, hearing a lot of stories about grassroots of clubs and etc. not getting support from the WRU either. And you can't continue on like that. You can't just focus on the national team and hope that everything's going to turn up sunny if you ignore like the actual the foundations that are below that. You have to look after the teams below that, and they're not doing that. And I know people have come and gone there in terms of like the high performance directors and wherever else, right? But they need to get a proper team in there in the WRU, and it has to be a mix, right? A lot of people are talking about, there's is he the CEO or something? He's only been there a year. Like for her, I'm not sure whether like she's, people seem to say, oh, she doesn't know anything about rugby, but her job is not to know about rugby, right? Her job is to run the organisation and to deal with that side of things. But they need to get people in who do know about rugby to run the rugby side of things. And, for me, having rugby people at the top of your union is part of the problem, right? It's basically just old blazers, old boys club, not doing things professionally, kind of nods and winks here and there, and, things happening behind closed doors. It shouldn't be like that's the old style, and that needs to go. But at the same time, you do need to get people in who are professional, and somebody needs to be in and basically say, right, your job is to look overall in terms of strategy for Welsh rugby. This is our aim. If I was in there, my aim would be like every year in the URC, we should be aiming to have at least one club in the playoffs consistently every single year. Also one club thereabouts in terms of getting out of the pool in the Champions Cup. Then every year be competitive in the Six Nations, not necessarily win it, but certainly be competitive in that. Don't get clean swept in your autumn internationals, and then also set up things for the youth level as well, under 20s. We want to see improvement year on year in the under 20s. We want to be, let's say 1 year out of 5 or 6 or whatever, we want to have at least one team that either wins the title or comes very close to winning the title, and then build on that and try and get that more often, etc. The same for the women's game. Be supporting them too. So you need someone to have overall control of that, and then you need people in silos as well, dealing with the other little bits to make sure that each bit gets looked at properly, and then it can all be tied back up together. So big job for the WRU to sort all of that out. It's weird. And one side of things, I'm thinking like, I absolutely would not want to have that job, because it sounds like a very difficult job because of all the politics involved. But at the same time, I'd love to have that job, because I think it would be a fantastic challenge to be able to go in there and look at pieces and see the wins and think, okay, well, we need to fix this part here, whatever it is. Maybe it's to do with we're going to maybe give more support to the regions, but on the back of that, then we're going to give them more higher targets to reach, etc., that kind of thing as well. But a lot of work to do for Wales, but I think I've prattled on long enough now at this stage, and we're going to draw a line under this Six Nations. But although if I have time, I don't know whether I will have time, but if I have time, I want to do some stats as well. But it's probably going to be next week, and the problem with that, right, is Six Nations. People will forget about the Six Nations next week. So it's about am I going to put the effort in for that, and then for people not to watch the video? I don't know. It's hard. woe is me, right? But it is honestly hard to produce some of the videos that I want to produce, given that, I've got a full-time job that I've got to, get that done first, and then a life to live as well, and then try and get my videos together, But, it's nobody's forcing me to do it, right? I really enjoy doing it, but, it's just the reality of the situation, right? There's certain things I want to do. I absolutely don't have the time to do them. And sometimes I get over ambitious with stuff. But for now, we're just going to say that's it done for the Six Nations. If we do have a stats video, it'll appear. If not, I didn't get around to it. But again, major congratulations to France. Very happy for them that they won it as well. Because again, over the tournament, they were the team that stood out in terms of that performance against Ireland was brilliant. Very unlucky to lose against England. Amazing against Italy. Sometimes we forget how good they were against Wales early on in the tournament, and then finished off as well in style against Scotland. So congratulations to France, all the French supporters. Hope you are kind of enjoying the celebrations as well, because I know from my own point of view, like it's amazing when it does happen for you, but you have to enjoy it while it's there, right? So hopefully you guys are doing that, and for the rest of us from the other nations, there's always next year.